We will now call to order the Budget Committee dated Thursday, September 29th, 2016. Roll call, please, Kathy.
Yes, sir. Mr. Angelpont?
Here.
Mr. Guidry?
Here.
Mr. Hunter? President Landry?
Here.
Mrs. Trimmy? Here. Mr. White?
Here.
And Chairman Brown?
Here.
You do have a quorum.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay, we'll go to item 3, consideration of making a recommendation with reference to approving requests from the following entities funding from the gaming fund.
Move on 3, all bullets.
Second.
Okay. A is West Calcasieu Airport, $4,000 for costs associated with purchase of a fuel truck. B, a City Refuge Veterans Homeless Shelter, $20,000 for a kitchen complex at the facility. C is Waterwork Districts number 11 of Ward 4 and 7, $20,000 for costs associated with repair of 2 water wells. And D is Ward 3 Recreation District number 1 of Ward 3, $1,750 for fall program activities at McMillan Park. E is Ward 4 District 13 Human Services Department, $7,000 for the Sulphur Housing Christmas Giving Program. F is Ward 4 District 14 City of Westlake, $15,000 for additional costs related to the extension of the city's water line on Westwood Road. G is Ward 4 District 15 Gravity Drainage District number 5 of Ward 4, $18,500 for costs associated with erosion control in Maplewood. H, Ward 5 Fire Protection District number 1, $45,000 for costs associated with parking lot maintenance, repairs, and the purchase of firefighter equipment. I is Ward 5 Waterworks District number 14 of Ward 5, $40,000 for costs associated with water system improvements on Evangeline Road from 1st Street to 4th Street. J is Ward 8 Town of Highway, $6,650 for funding assistance toward the purchase of bulletproof vests for the Highway Police Department. I have a motion by Mr. Angelpont and a second by Mr. Guidry. Is there any discussion? Any opposition? Hear none, that item will carry. Item 4, any other matters for consideration?
Move to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn and a second.
Thank you, sir.
Call to order the Public Works Committee for Thursday, September 29, 2016. Roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Angelpont?
Here.
Mr. Ferris?
Here.
Mr. Brain?
Here.
Mr. Collins?
Here.
Mr. Guidry?
Here.
Mr. Guillory was unable to attend this evening. Mr. Hunter? President Landry?
Here.
Mr. Latour?
Here.
Ms. Mayo? Here. Mr. McMillan?
Here.
Vice Chairman Scott was also unable to attend this evening. Mrs. Trimmy?
She's here.
Present. Here she is. Mr. White?
Here.
And Chairman Farnum.
Here. Thank you, Kathy. Number 3 is presentation of a certificate to Miss Samantha Espinosa, 3rd grade student of Immaculate Conception Cathedral School, for winning the litter bag drawing contest for the Keep Calcasieu Clean, Don't Litter campaign. Mr. Hafer.
Good evening. Tom Hafer, Communications and Media Director. Very exciting stuff going on with our litter program right now. As you know, Cindy Murphy is our litter program coordinator, and Ed Deal is our litter enforcement officer. They would like to be here for this presentation, but they're actually at the Keep Louisiana beautiful annual convention over in Baton Rouge, and they are chaperoning Fetch and Trash Squatch over there. They are the hit of the party, apparently, so we're real pleased about that. But the real reason why we are here and very pleased, you'll notice that you have several of our brand new Keep Calcasieu Beautiful litter bags that we have just introduced. And the reason we're here this evening is to honor the person who designed that for us. We had a contest with school children here in Calcasieu Parish to design the bags, which we do every couple of years when we need to come up with a new design. And we're very pleased that our winner, by unanimous choice, is Miss Samantha Espinosa. Please join us, Samantha. Come on up. We had nearly 30 entries, and Samantha's was, it was just fantastic. We couldn't believe how good it was, and we're just so pleased to have that. We really, truly believe that starting with the youth and litter education is the main focus of our litter program, and we're glad that Samantha was able to, be a part of this, and we're just very pleased to give her a little certificate to honor her participation. Mr. Landry?
You're a great artist. We're very proud of you. We have a plaque for you. We're gonna hang that in the room. Great. Would you take a picture with us, with me and Mr. Hafer?
You might need to hold her up.
We'll let you.
Probably need to pick her up and hold her. Yeah.
Hold the certificate. I'll hold it back.
They can kneel down.
1, 2, 3. Okay, let your mom get one.
One, two, three.
We'll move to item 4, receive report from Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development, representative regarding the I-210 bridge repair project. Mr. Landry.
Good evening. I have some information about our I-210 main span redecking project, and I'll share a little bit of the timeline.
Could I interrupt you?
Yes.
State your name and address and position for us.
My name's Todd Landry. I'm the district administrator for DOTD in District 7.
Thank you.
Okay. I have some information about our project. It's the letting date for this project is November the 16th this year. There's a mandatory pre-bid meeting on October the 5th, which is next week, and it'll be in headquarters in Baton Rouge. After the letting date, there'll be we'll have to notice to proceed, which will probably happen sometime January or February. There'll be a 100-day assembly period after that. And then we're going to, this first phase of the project will be some work on I-10, actually, to replace some bridge joints on some of the bridges through the I-10 corridor in Lake Charles. So that will be, they have 60 calendar days in which to do that work. And when that work is completed, then we'll move to I-210 and begin the work there. It's anticipated, and of course, the contractor is going to bid the days in this project, so the days may fluctuate from what I'm giving you right now, but it's anticipated that the bridge will be down to one lane in both directions for at least 2 years. And so the project in its entirety, including the I-10 work, looking at 36 months possibly. If he could bid it that less than that, and we hope he does. But as far as timing goes, that's the schedule right now. So you have any other questions for me?
Mr. McMillan.
Thanks, Todd. I've been in a number of meetings where you're not the bad guy. You're just delivering a message. And I guess some of the couple things that people want to know is why this is being done and why does it have to be done. I've heard you address that a few times. And also, too, maybe talk about the 18-wheeler traffic that's going to be diverted to the I-10 bridge. There won't be any 18-wheeler traffic over that bridge as long as you're doing the construction time. So if you give us a couple things on that.
That's right. Well, the project has to be done because of the age of the bridge, the condition of the bridge. There are some issues that need to be addressed. The barrier rails, we're going to replace all of the barrier rails, which are not crash-worthy by today's standards. So that's one thing we will do. We will also put new safety walkways under the main spans for inspection purposes. This will also allow us not to have to close lanes on 210 for our biannual inspections. So that's another thing. Of course, the size of those girders, and so just to do an inspection every other year is a $200,000 issue. So with these walkways, it will no longer have that cost. The decks just need to be replaced because of their age. They're beginning to deteriorate to the point that we have to take some action, and we're just being taking preemptive action on that to be responsible with our structure. And of course, we want the thing in excellent shape for the period when we will replace the I-10 bridge, which will be on the heels of this project at some point.
Hopefully. 18-wheeler traffic.
18-wheeler traffic will not be able to use the I-210 bridges while they're down to one lane in both directions. And so we will try to put out notices well in advance so they can even take 190, Highway 12, but they will also be using the I-10 bridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other question on that?
Mr. Anderpont.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Approximately, how much is budgeted for just the I-10 project?
I-10 portion of the project? I don't know the answer to that, but I would think it's probably close to $800,000 to do that portion. The total estimate on this project is $35 million. I'm sorry, but I don't know the answer to your question. Yeah. But it's going to be a small percentage of the total
Well, that's fixing to
project.
say it's a lot less than I anticipated it was going to
Yes,
be.
I'm sure there's much less, because they're just replacing some joints, some bridge joints on the end dams of
You're
those.
telling me the two bridges at $35 million project?
Yes, sir.
210 and the...
Yes, sir. That's what it's estimated at. Of course, when they bid it, we'll know for sure.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions for Mr. Landry? We appreciate you coming tonight and keeping us informed. There's probably a good population of the public out there that really doesn't know this is coming down the pipe at us. And anything we can do to get the word out is going to be good for everybody involved, because there's a lot of folks that cross that bridge getting to work in the mornings and trying to get home in the evenings. And right now it's pretty miserable every afternoon.
Right. And our public information officer we're going to take pains to get the word out. The closer we get, you'll be hearing more from DOTD about the project. And so we'll be getting more information out. We just didn't want to do that too prematurely. But the businesses in the area, they almost all know about the project, because we've been on the street and talking to them. So.
Good deal. Mr. McMillan.
I was just going to ask it, once this gets started, could you maybe come give us quarterly updates here at the jury?
Sure, anytime.
The CGov channel is here, and the press is usually here. I think if we could get you in here to do a quarterly update, it'd sure maybe ease some mind. And if anybody had any questions, we'd be able to answer or get you to answer them for them.
Anytime.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We appreciate you coming tonight. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you.
Item number 5, receive report from Ms. Patricia Prudhomme of McNeese State University regarding the 2016-17 Banners Cultural Series.
Good afternoon.
Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Patricia Prudhomme, 736 Cleveland Street. I was not prepared for that. Part of the answer. Okay, now I'll regroup. And Jessica, I have some take-homes for all the jurors to read tonight at your leisure, I'm sure. Real quickly, what we wanted to do tonight was the police jury has been a tremendous support for Banners at McNeese for years. And this is just an opportunity to let you know how your investment has been distributed in the parish and as we move forward for the next year. So just a real quick overview. If you're not familiar, Banners at McNeese has a couple of components. The one you're probably most familiar with, and many of you have been with us, is the Banners Cultural Season. So that's everything from last year we had the Pet Circus with, Jason was thrilled. We had some runaway cats at Burton Coliseum that may still be in residence out there. To our classical performances, world music, we try to make that as diverse as possible so that all of our community members share in that investment. The other piece of that is Banners Engages, and that's our educational outreach. Last year, we probably impacted about 5,000 of our students with arts and humanities programming, probably another 50 hours that we were able to supplement to both our Calcasieu Parish Public Schools and the parochial schools. That's what we can do. One of the probably the most impactful pieces of what we provide for you as a police jury. As we all know, the budgets are going to become increasingly tight for teachers. Their time is at a premium. We're able to come in with both curriculum guides that match up with the points they're trying to cover for their classes, live performances that are never going to be a part of a budget for a school that we can provide. So those are things we can do to help supplement what we're already doing, and a key piece of that. So that will be something that we always continue to grow. That's our big picture. Your funding, our corporate sponsors, our membership, and we have one fundraiser each year, a wine and food festival, are how we stay in business. It's a self-sustaining program, blessed to be supported by McNeese State University. They give us office space and a great home there, and of course all the support of their resources. That's the quick overview. Anything particular that's on someone's mind?
Do we have any questions for Ms. Prudham? Mr. McMillan?
Thank you. And you always do a great job with the Rouge et Blanc, and it's coming up on October 8th, and it's a big event for all Southwest Louisiana. I guess one of the things that I learned the other day when visiting with you is the number of people, how many tickets you sell, and how quick you sell out. If you just mention that. And also, you have an entire wine week going on in this whole celebration that helps a lot of other different entities. And you might mention that.
I do. In the day, and as I say, I always talk about educational impact. It's a fun day, and we all know that it's a wine and food day, and it's fun. But we feel really strong. It's the only fundraiser that we have for the year, and that money that we make on that Saturday pays the bills for the next spring for our artists. Is that directly impactful? We usually clear about $100,000 that day, and that money gets spent on artists in the fall. So when we say it's a critical piece of what we do, it is. The community, this is our 11th year for the event, and those of you who have been with fundraisers, that's a hard thing to sustain for that long, the support. And we're at 1,750 tickets that we sell out, and I've never seen anything like it. I'm popular for about 2 hours. And then quickly after that, not so much so. When I say no a lot. But a fun day. And as I said, we try to encourage. We have several, Imperial Calcasieu Museum and Calcasieu Community Clinic, that have positioned fundraisers of their own during that week. And I call it the feeding frenzy. Once we start talking about food and wine, people get in that mood. So they have two good fundraisers that they do during that week as well. And we try to provide, this year we're adding a free film down at the amphitheater as one of the events to just try, and our mission is access. And that's one of the things we feel most strongly about, that every single person in our community have the same access to programming, be that live performances or movies or whatever the thing is that we feel like we can bring to the community. So those are other ways. In the midst of the fun and raising money, we do try to insert as much of our mission into that as well.
In the 11 years over the festival growing itself, what do you see as the future of the educational side? I mean, can you grow that also?
And we did. This year was the first year we added, if you've looked at, and we spent a lot of time looking at what other people do, there are a lot of workshops and seminars, and I know people are like, oh, learn about wine, that's hard. But there is a lot of valuable information. This year there's a glassware, Riedel Glassware came on board with us last year, and they're coming in from their corporate this year to do a class about why the glass matters. Some of my friends disagree that is not the case, that the glass does not matter. But those are the kinds of things that, yes, we can. Talking about countries of origin and talking about France and Spain, and those are all things that would come as we
On the educational aspect of the kids and the arts, can that grow? That's
always.
Yeah.
And that'll be where what we're seeing, we're getting an increase in what gets pitched to us about STEM programming. Last fall, we had Toying with Science, which is based around resistance and gravity and physics, and it's an amazing thing, but he's balloons and ladders, but those, we're continuing to see more of that, where we're able to bring that in. That, in addition to low sensory presentations. We have several groups in town that do tremendous work for autism. What we're seeing is performers now acknowledging that there needs to be a low sensory presentation. So we're seeing more and more presentation of that, where if we're bringing a show in, I'll use the Pet Circus as an example. If you saw that thing, it was lights and geese and goats and it was stuff everywhere. Well, you couldn't bus in for our school show their students. But if the artist could offer to us an presentation that's low sensory, that's another element that we can bring that the autism groups aren't going to be able to budget for as well. So that's probably what I see. And the money shifted. It's harder and harder. Arts and cultural monies are just more at premium as budgets get tight for corporations. So we see the educational piece growing. And we have our partner in education program here is so strong that all of the industries really encourage that. So they're on board if we can say we can take this to, we had Erin Kelly come in, a local author who is now well published. Well, she came in and spoke to Westlake's Writers Club. Those are the things that we can do that maybe are harder for other groups to do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
President Landry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Hal, I know you know this, that Patricia's really been the driving force behind this program and banner series, and I just want to say that we really appreciate what you've done for the community. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Chris.
Keep up the good work.
Well, we're fortunate in Southwest Louisiana. If you go out from live theater to symphony, it is really unknown the population base that we have to be as fortunate as we are with cultural opportunities. And I think what we want to really focus on is our underserved community, our kids that either their parents don't have $5 to bring them to Pete the Cat Show or the transportation to get them there. That's where I think we see in the next 10 years our opportunity, not just us, but the parish, to really make that mission true, that every single person in the parish has equal access to programming, and I think that's our next path to travel. So
Thank you.
I'll stop talking. I know you give me a hot mic. I'm going to keep going.
If we don't have any further questions, we appreciate you coming. We know you do a lot to enhance the quality of life in the entire community, and all of Southwest Louisiana participates in this. So we appreciate everything you do.
Thank you. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you.
Item 6, consideration of making a recommendation with reference to approving the 2017 Road and Drainage Trust Fund grant.
Move on 6.
Second.
City of Lake Charles, Lake Street 4-laning, $500,000. Gravity Drainage District 4 of Ward 3, laterals L3 and L5 of W6, $500,000.
Wow, West Side did good.
And Gravity Drainage District Number 7 of Ward 8, L14 main improvements for $500,000. 3 projects came in, and they're the lucky winners.
Motion.
We have a motion by President Landry, second by Mr. Guidry. Any discussion on these items?
I'd like to mention something.
Mr. McMillan.
Just in noticing this, I don't like to split up east-west Calcasieu. We're all one, but all 3 of these seem to be in the eastern side. Hopefully, next year, the west side will be the lucky winner of some of these projects.
It has been for quite some time.
Here we go.
Yeah.
President Landry.
Mr. McMillan, I think we've both been here for 17 years, and there is no lucky winner on this program. It is a point system that Mr. Connor, believe me, there's no fudging. You either get the points or you don't, and whoever does, lucky enough to be awarded the money. And actually, this year we ended up with, instead of $1 million, it's $1.5 million, which is some funds that were left over from previous years. So, I've seen it go the other way more than once. So, I guess it's our lucky year.
Yeah.
So thank you, I guess, or
Yeah.
you're happy for us. I know you are.
Yes, I am.
That's the way I saw it. But it was very clear cut that the point system was very accurate, and each place was basically 1 point difference all the way down the line. Every one of them got a different point value, and somebody fell 1 point short of this and 2 points short of this, and you only got so much money to go around, so it really worked out well. So
Plus, I don't mean to interrupt. maybe I still have the floor, but I did. But there's also a clause in there where, you know, the same entity, whether it be the city of Lake Charles or Gravity Drainage District, number 4 there, they can only be awarded, I think, 2 years in a row. Is that correct, Mr.
$1 million
Connor?
max.
Right, it's $1 million over a 3-year period.
Over $1 million over 3 years. So, you know, there's a way that even though it scores, in a way it gives everybody a chance to get some money. It's as fair as it possibly can be, Mr.
Absolutely. I
Mayor.
never doubted that.
Oh, you agreed with
I
me?
never doubted it was fair.
All right, thank
I
you.
just noticed all 3 were on the east
I'm
side.
just making sure we're good and on the same page.
Any other discussion on this item? Any objection? Hearing none, all those items will pass. Item 7, consideration of making recommendation with reference to adopting a resolution approving a cooperative endeavor agreement between the police jury, City of Lake Charles, for establishing the responsibilities related to the Goche Road, Lake Charles Regional Airport Sewer Transport System Project. We have a motion by Mr. Brame, second by Mr. Latour. Any discussion? Objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 8, consideration of making a recommendation with reference to adopting a resolution approving an active sale
Move to
agreement
adopt.
for the purchase of property for the Tank Farm Road Site Distance Project. Motion by Mr. Brame, second by President Landry. Any discussion? Objection? That motion will carry. Number 9, consideration of making a recommendation with reference to adopting a resolution approving a utility servitude agreement for the Coach Williams Drive Extension Project. We have motion by Mr. McMillan, second by Mr. Guidry. Any discussion on this item? Any objection? Hearing none, that motion will carry. Number 10, consideration of making a recommendation
10.
with reference to adopting a resolution approving expropriation of property for the Coach Williams Drive Extension Project. Motion by Mr. McMillan, second by Mr. Guidry. Discussion. Any objection? That motion will carry also. Item 11, consideration making recommendation with reference to adopting a resolution accepting Calcasieu Parish Project Number 2016-05, striping of various roads in Calcasieu Parish as substantially complete. We have a motion by Mr. Collins, second by President Landry. Any discussion on this item? Any objection? That motion will carry. Any other matters for consideration?
Adjourn.
Second. We have a motion and a second to adjourn. We are adjourned.
Raymond Barris.
We will now call the Agenda Committee to order for Thursday, September 29th, 2016. The purpose of today's committee meeting is to formulate an agenda for the regular meeting of the police jury on October 6, 2016. The chair will entertain a motion to pull number 21.
Mr. Brame, and second by Mr. Collins. Raymond Collins, Francis. You got it.
We have a motion and a second. A motion by Mr. Brame and a second by Mr. Collins to pull number 21.
This is pretty big.
And we shall proceed as soon as I find it. Okay. Take appropriate action on the terms of the following members of various boards and districts, and further adopt resolutions and approving appointments and reappointments. Ms. Carrie Vick, Community
defer
Center
for 30
Playground
days.
District Number 8. I have a motion by Mr. Latour to defer for 30 days. We have a second by Kevin White. Is there any discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries. Mr. Terry Burns, resignation, Community Center Playground District Number 3.
Move to appoint Mr.
7.
Daniel Palladino.
Second.
A recommendation from Mr. Barris to appoint Mr. Daniel Palladino, and a second by Mr. Fornum. Is there any discussion? Is there any opposition? Motion carries. Mr. James Laird, the Resignations Community Center and Playground District Number 3, Award 7.
Move to appoint Mr. Jonathan Harbert.
A motion by Mr. Barris and a second by Mr. Fornum to appoint Mr. Jonathan Harbert. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries. Mr. Jeremy Trahan, Resignation Community Center and Playground District Number 3, Award 7.
Move to appoint Mr. Scott Spell.
Second.
Appointment by Mr. Barris, recommendation to appoint Mr. Scott Spell from Mr. Barris, and a second by Mr. Kevin Guidry. Is there any discussion? Mr. President?
You have 3 resignations from the same recreation district. I just realized that all at one time. I don't know that that's ever happened before, but anyway, that's all. Thank you.
Okay. Any discussion on the appointment?
Interesting.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Mr. Robert Moss, resignation, Ward 4 Fire Protection District Number 3. Mr. McMillan.
Move to reappoint,
Second.
move to appoint Shane Boudreau.
We have a recommendation and appointment for Mr. Shane Boudreau by Mr. McMillan, second by Mr. Guidry. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries.
Skip to
Which one?
reading.
Fire Protection District Number 1.
Okay. Mr. Ronald R. Harmon, Ward 1, Fire
Move to
Protection
reappoint
District
Mr.
Number
Harmon.
1.
Second.
Have the motion to reappoint Mr. Harmon by Mr. White and a second by Mr. Landry. Or is there any discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries.
Now go to G.
Mr. Lester Goss, Ward 4 Fire Protection District Number
Move to
3.
reappoint.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. McMillan and a second by Mr. Landry to reappoint Mr. Goss. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries. Mrs. Mildred White, resignation, Ward 5 Fire
Move to leave it
Protection.
on the agenda till next week.
Second.
Yeah, motion by Mrs. Trimmy to leave it on the agenda till next week. Mr. Kevin White seconds the motion. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries. Mr. Paul Gilrery,
I'd like to
Ward
move
8.
to reappoint Mr. Paul Guillory.
Mr. Latour moves to reappoint Mr. Paul Gilrery, and a second by Mrs. Trimmy. Is there any discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries. Mr. Jake Porche, Calcasieu Parish Planning and Zoning Board
Move
from
to
Ward
reappoint
3.
Mr. Jake Porche.
We have a motion by Mr. Barris and a second.
Mr. Brain. Missed that one.
Mr. Brame moves to reappoint, and a second by Mr. Landry. Do we have any discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries. I want to reappoint Gary Navarre. Mr. Gary Navarre, Calcasieu Parish Planning
Move
and
to
Zoning.
reappoint.
Motion by Mr. McMillan and a second by Mr. Fornum to reappoint Mr. Navarre. Any discussion, any opposition? Motion carries. Mrs. Elgina Gilrery, Calcasieu Parish
I'd
Planning
like
and
to
Zoning.
move to appoint Mr. Randy Ormentor.
A motion by Mr. Latour to appoint Mr. Randy Ormentor and a second by Mr. Landry. Is there any discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries. Mr. Dick Myers, resignation, Workforce Development Board, Private
Move to
Sector.
appoint Mr. Boyd Michael Welch.
Second.
Ms. Mayo moves to appoint Mr. George Michael Welch, and a second by Mr. Guidry. Is there any discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries. Mr. Charles Broussard, Vinton Harbor Terminal District, pursuant to LSRRS 334-2, police jury must submit names of 2 nominees and board will make appointments. Mr. Barris.
Move to reappoint Mr. Charles Broussard.
We have a motion by Mr. Barris to
Second.
reappoint Mr.
think we-
Charles
we
Broussard
need
and a
to-
second by Mr. Brame.
Mr.
Is
Chairman,
there,
if I may, we need to submit 2 names. We can't just reappoint.
okay, you're right. Very astute move, Mr. President.
Then we'll have to defer this.
We'll
Somebody
defer
like
till
Kenny
next
Stinson.
week, maybe?
Nominate Kenny Stinson or somebody, just somebody. Just get your name.
Go ahead. That's what
We
I
can
nominate
leave it on
Mr. Kenny Stinson and Mr. Charles Broussard.
Which one do you want to?
Mr.
That's the.
Kenny Stinson has been, his name has been also submitted. Is there any opposition to the recommendation? Motion carries.
Figure that one out.
All right. That concludes our business, I believe.
Move to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second? Second. Meeting is now adjourned.
I haven't either.